I didn't lose control. I just met something that didn't respond to it. That's different, because control is my language. It's how I built everything you see. The discipline, the precision, the way people fall in line without me raising my voice. I don't chase outcomes. I design them. Every move calculated, every risk measured, and it works. Until it doesn't. There's always that one variable no one prepares you for. The one that doesn't follow logic, doesn't react to pressure, doesn't bend when you tighten your grip. You. And I hate how quickly that truth revealed itself. Not in chaos, not in some dramatic collapse. No. This was quieter than that. More dangerous. It started in moments that didn't seem important at first, a conversation that lingered longer than it should have, a look you didn't hold long enough, but it stayed with me longer than I'd admit, a silence between us that didn't feel empty, it felt loaded, and I remember thinking, this is nothing. Just another interaction, another person passing through a life that's already too full to notice one more presence. But that was the first mistake, because you didn't pass through. You settled somewhere I didn't give permission for. Do you know what that does to someone like me? It creates friction. Not externally. I still showed up the same way. Still sharp, still composed, still in control. But internally, something was off. Like a system glitch no one else could see. I'd be in a room full of people, closing deals, making decisions that move numbers most people can't even comprehend. And then, out of nowhere, a thought of you would cut through everything like it didn't belong there, but refused to leave. That's when I knew this wasn't normal, because I don't get distracted, I don't get pulled, I don't get affected. At least, that's what I've always told myself. But let me ask you something. Have you ever met someone who didn't demand your attention, but somehow took it anyway? No effort, no strategy, just presence. That's what made this dangerous, because if you had chased me, I would have understood it. I would have categorized it, controlled it, responded accordingly, but you didn't. You existed, and somehow that was enough to disrupt everything I thought I had mastered. And here's the uncomfortable truth I don't say out loud. Control isn't power, it's protection. It's what you build when you don't trust the world, or yourself, to handle unpredictability. And I've been building it for years, layer by layer. Success was just the visible version of it, but you didn't attack it, you didn't challenge it, you simply stood outside of it, untouched, unaffected, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't know how to respond. That's the part no one sees. They see confidence, not confusion. They see certainty, not the quiet hesitation that creeps in when something doesn't fit the blueprint. I remember one night specifically, late, the kind of late where the world feels paused. My room was dim, city lights bleeding through the window, casting shadows that stretched longer than they should. Phone in my hand, your name sitting there, no message sent, no message needed, and I just stared at it. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I didn't know what it meant that I wanted to say something. That's new for me, wanting without a reason, reaching without a strategy, feeling without a framework to contain it. It didn't sit right, because feelings don't follow rules. And I've built my entire life on rules. So I did what I always do when something doesn't make sense. I tried to regain control, pulled back, redirected my focus, told myself it's temporary, a distraction, something that fades once logic steps back in. But here's the problem. It didn't fade, it adapted, quieter, deeper, less obvious, but more present, like something learning the rhythm of my life, waiting for the exact moments I'd let my guard down. And that's when it hit me. This isn't something I can outwork. This isn't something I can outthink. This isn't something I can dominate. And that realization, it didn't scare me at first. It irritated me, because I've spent years becoming a man who doesn't get moved by things he can't control. But now I had to face something worse than fear. Uncertainty. And I don't tolerate uncertainty. Not in business, not in life, not in this. So I started asking myself questions I didn't like the answers to. Why does this matter? Why do you matter? And more importantly, why can't I make it stop? That's where the real conflict began. Not between me and you, but between who I've built myself to be and what you're slowly unraveling without even trying. And I still don't know which one of those is stronger, but I have a feeling. The moment I find out, everything changes. You didn't enter my life. You infiltrated it. And the worst part, you never even tried. That's the detail that keeps bothering me. Because I understand effort, I understand intention, I understand when someone wants something from me, status, access, validation. I know how to handle that. But you never reached, you never pushed, you never played the game, you just existed in your own space, untouched by everything that usually works on people like me. And somehow that made you impossible to ignore. It started subtly, moments I couldn't explain, only feel. I'd be in the middle of something important, numbers, strategy, decisions that carry weight, and then without warning, you'd cross my mind, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to shift something inside me, like a quiet interruption that didn't ask for permission. And I'd catch myself thinking, why now? Why you? Why at all? That question never got a clean answer, because there wasn't a logical reason. You weren't the most convenient. You weren't the easiest. You weren't even predictable. And I don't build my life around things that don't make sense. But here's the uncomfortable truth I had to face. Not everything that matters makes sense. Some things just hit. And when they do, they bypass logic entirely. That's what you did. You bypassed me. Not the version people see, the real one, the one that doesn't like being seen too clearly. The one that stays controlled because it knows what happens when it's not. Let me show you something. There was a night. I remember it too well. The kind of silence that feels heavier than noise. My room was still. Lights off. Only the faint glow from the city leaking through the window, stretching shadows across the floor like they were reaching for something. I was sitting there, doing nothing, which is rare for me. I don't sit still unless there's a purpose. But that night, there wasn't one. Just space. And in that space, you showed up again. Not physically, not even in a clear memory. Just a presence, a feeling. And I hated how natural it felt. Because it wasn't forced. It wasn't something I created. It just was. Do you understand how dangerous that is? When something feels real without effort, when it exists without your permission, that's not attraction. That's something deeper, something that doesn't ask to be controlled. And I realized something in that moment. I wasn't thinking about you. I was returning to you. Like my mind knew a place I hadn't consciously chosen. That shook me more than I expected, because I don't return to anything that doesn't serve me. That's a rule I've lived by for years. And suddenly, here I was, breaking it, quietly, consistently, without even noticing at first. So I started pulling back, not from you, from the feeling. I distracted myself. More work, more noise, more control, filled every gap with something productive, something measurable, something I could dominate. But it didn't eliminate you. It just delayed you. Because the moment everything slowed down again, there you were. Same presence, same quiet intensity, waiting like you knew I'd come back. That's when it stopped feeling random and started feeling intentional. Not from you, but from something bigger than both of us. And I don't like that idea, because it suggests this isn't something I chose. And I don't trust things I didn't choose. Here's the part I don't say out loud. I've spent years avoiding anything that has the power to destabilize me. Not because I'm weak, but because I know exactly how deep I can go when something actually gets through. And I don't half feel things. I don't casually connect. When something reaches me, it changes me. And change? That's unpredictable. That's messy. That's everything I've built my life to stay above. So now I'm stuck in this tension between what I know and what I feel, between control and whatever this is becoming. And I need to ask you something. Have you ever felt someone's presence so strongly that even their absence didn't remove it? Because that's where this is right now. You're not here. But somehow, you are. And I don't know what that means yet. I don't know if it's something I should lean into, or something I should shut down before it goes too far. But what I do know is this. This isn't fading. It's evolving. Quietly. Patiently. And I have a feeling. It's leading somewhere I haven't prepared for. I just don't know if that place is something I'll recognize. Or something that finally forces me to. I didn't break. I unraveled. Quietly. Precisely. The way everything in my life usually happens. Controlled. Measured. Except this time, I wasn't the one in control. It was late. Not the kind of late where you're just tired. The kind where the world feels like it's holding its breath. My room was dim, shadows stretched across the walls like they had something to say. The city outside had gone still. No movement, no noise, just distant lights flickering like they were barely hanging on. And there I was, sitting at the edge of the bed, not working, not thinking strategically, not solving anything, just there. That alone should have been my first warning. Because I don't sit in stillness unless I've earned it. But that night, stillness wasn't a reward. It was a confrontation. And you were at the center of it, not in a clear memory, not even in a specific moment we shared. Just a weight, a presence pressing against my chest like something unresolved was demanding attention. I tried to shake it off, told myself it's just fatigue, mental overload, a temporary lapse. That's what I do. I label things so I can control them. But this? This didn't fit any category I've mastered, and that's when it started to crack. Not loudly, no dramatic breakdown, no visible collapse, just a slow, internal fracture. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, hands clasped together like I was holding something fragile. But there was nothing there, just tension, just pressure. And for the first time in a long time, I asked myself something I didn't have an immediate answer to. Why does this feel like loss, when nothing was ever mine? That question didn't sit well, because I don't attach meaning where there's no ownership. That's a rule, or at least it was. But sitting there in that silence, I realized something I didn't want to admit. I had already let you matter. Without agreement, without clarity, without control. And that's dangerous. Because once something matters, it has leverage. And I don't give leverage easily. So I pushed back, mentally, emotionally, tried to rebuild the distance, reminded myself who I am, what I've built, what I've overcome. I told myself, you've handled worse than this. But here's the truth no one prepares you for. Success doesn't teach you how to deal with something that doesn't play by rules. It teaches you how to win, not how to surrender. And that night, something in me was asking for surrender, not weakness, not defeat, just honesty, raw, uncomfortable honesty, the kind you can't negotiate with. So I stopped fighting it, just for a moment. And the moment I did, everything hit at once. The realization that you weren't just a thought anymore. You were a disruption, a shift in my internal order, a presence that didn't need proximity to exist, and that's when it broke. Not me entirely, just the illusion I've been carrying for years, that I'm unaffected, that I can move through life untouched, that nothing gets in unless I let it, because clearly, something did, and I didn't even see it happen. That's what unsettled me the most, not the feeling itself, but how quietly it took root. How naturally it stayed, like it belonged there, and I remember looking up, just staring into the dark, like I was expecting something, anything, to make sense of it, but nothing came, no clarity, no resolution, just a deeper awareness of something I couldn't undo, and I thought, is this what people mean when they say something hits different? Because this didn't feel like attraction, it didn't feel like curiosity, it felt irreversible. Let me ask you something. Have you ever reached a point where you couldn't tell if what you were feeling was a beginning or an ending? Because that's where I was, right in between, not knowing if this was something growing or something already slipping out of reach. And here's the uncomfortable truth I had to face in that moment. I'm not afraid of losing people. I'm afraid of not understanding what they meant to me until it's too late. That's a different kind of fear, one you can't prepare for, one you can't control. And sitting there, in that silence, I realized I might already be behind in understanding, behind in feeling, behind in something I never thought I'd have to catch up to. And that doesn't sit well with me, because I don't fall behind, ever. But this isn't something I can accelerate. There's no strategy for it, no system to optimize it. It moves at its own pace, and I'm just in it. That's new for me, being in something without leading it, without defining it, without knowing where it's going. And I don't know if that's growth or a mistake I haven't recognized yet, but I do know this. That night changed something. Not visibly, not externally, but internally. The structure shifted. And once something shifts at that level, it doesn't go back to the way it was. It evolves. Or it collapses further. And I still haven't figured out which one this is. But there's a part of me, a very quiet part, that's starting to question something I've never questioned before. What if this isn't where I lost control? What if this is where I was never supposed to have it in the first place? And if that's true, then what exactly have I been holding on to all this time? Because the answer to that, I haven't faced it yet. The answer didn't come as comfort, it came as exposure. And I didn't hear it out loud. No voice, no sign, nothing dramatic. Just a moment, sharp, quiet, undeniable, where something inside me stopped resisting long enough to see clearly. You weren't here to complete me. You were here to reveal me. And that realization, it didn't feel spiritual. It felt surgical, precise, unforgiving, almost invasive, like something had been cut open without my permission, and now I had to look at what was inside. I didn't like what I saw, because for years I've carried this image of myself, controlled, self-sufficient, untouchable, a man who doesn't need, doesn't depend, doesn't break, and yet, there I was, realizing that your presence had exposed cracks I didn't even know existed, not weaknesses in the way people think, but patterns. The way I keep distance even when I feel something real, The way I detach the moment something gets unpredictable. The way I convince myself I don't care, when in reality, I just don't want to lose control. That's the uncomfortable truth. I don't avoid connection because I'm strong. I avoid it because I know how deeply it can affect me. And I've seen what happens when something gets that close. Years ago, there was a moment. Different person, different time, but the same feeling of losing ground. I remember standing in a crowded place, noise everywhere, people talking, moving, laughing. And yet all I could feel was this internal collapse I couldn't explain. I ignored it back then, buried it under work, progress, distraction, told myself it was temporary. But now I see it wasn't temporary. It was a pattern I never addressed. And you didn't create it. You exposed it. That's what makes this different, because I can't blame you for something that was already there. You just brought it to the surface, and I hate that. Not you, the truth. Because truth removes all excuses. It doesn't let you hide behind success or confidence or control. It just stands there and says, this is who you are when no one's watching. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't recognize that version of myself. Let me ask you something. Have you ever met someone who didn't change your life by staying, but by forcing you to confront parts of yourself you spent years avoiding? Because that's what this feels like. Not a love story, not even a connection I fully understand, more like a mirror I didn't ask for. And once you see yourself clearly like that, you can't unsee it. That's the part no one talks about. People say they want truth. They don't. They want comfort disguised as truth. Because real truth, it disrupts you. It makes you question decisions you were once proud of. It makes you revisit moments you've already buried. It makes you admit things like, maybe I wasn't as in control as I thought. Maybe I pushed people away before they even had a chance to stay. Maybe I've been calling it standards, when it was really just fear. That one hit harder than I expected. Because fear doesn't fit into the image I've built. But it's there. Quiet, calculated, hidden behind logic. And you walked straight through it without even trying. No force, no pressure, just presence. And somehow, that was enough to dismantle everything I thought was solid. That's when it shifted. My perspective, not about you, about me. Because suddenly this wasn't about figuring you out. It was about understanding why you affected me the way you did, why your absence feels heavier than your presence ever should have, why something so undefined feels so permanent. And I still don't have all the answers. That's the part that bothers me. I'm used to clarity, to knowing exactly what something is, where it's going, how it ends. But this doesn't follow any of that. It exists without explanation. And I'm left trying to make sense of something that doesn't want to be defined. That's new territory for me, uncomfortable territory, because it requires something I've avoided for a long time, letting things be without controlling the outcome. And I don't know if I'm capable of that. Not fully, not yet, but I do know this. You didn't enter my life to stay the same. You entered it to change something deeper than routine, something more permanent than a moment. And whether I like it or not, that change has already started. The question is, what exactly is it turning me into? Because if this isn't about you, if it was never about you staying or leaving, then why does it still feel like I'm on the edge of losing something I can't even name yet? And maybe that's the part I'm not ready to face. What if the thing I'm afraid of losing isn't you? It's who I've been pretending to be this entire time. And if that's true, then what happens when there's nothing left to hide behind? Maybe you were never meant to stay. Maybe you were meant to interrupt me, not my schedule, not my routine. Me. That's the part I've been circling around without saying it directly, because if I say it clearly, it becomes real. And once it's real, I can't go back to pretending this was just another passing moment. You changed something, not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that doesn't reverse, and I've been trying to figure out what that means. For you, for me, for whatever this is. But every time I think I'm close to an answer, it slips. Like this wasn't designed to be understood all at once. So let me ask you something. Have you ever met someone who didn't feel like peace, but felt like truth? Because peace is easy to romanticize. It's calm, predictable, safe. Truth is disruptive. It doesn't care about your comfort. It shows you things you didn't ask to see, and then leaves you there to deal with them. That's what you've been for me. Not a solution. A confrontation. And here's the uncomfortable part I've been avoiding. I think I needed that. Not in a soft, poetic way. In a brutal, necessary way. Because before you, I was efficient. Everything in my life worked. But it worked because it was controlled, measured, filtered. Nothing got too close unless I allowed it. And I told myself that was strength. But now I'm starting to question that. Because what if it wasn't strength? What if it was limitation? That's the pattern interrupt no one prepares you for. Sometimes the life you've mastered is the life that's quietly keeping you small. And I don't say that lightly, because everything I've built came from discipline, from sacrifice, from choosing logic over emotion when it mattered. But you don't fit into that equation, and instead of dismissing it like I normally would, I've been watching it, studying it, trying to understand why something so undefined feels so significant. And the more I sit with it, the more I realize this was never about having you. It was about what you revealed in me. The parts I kept locked behind control. The parts that don't operate on logic. The parts that feel without permission. That's new for me, and I won't lie to you. It scares me. Not because I'm afraid of you, but because I don't fully recognize the version of myself that exists around you. He's less controlled, less predictable, more open. And I don't know if that's strength or the beginning of something I won't be able to contain. That's the tension I'm sitting in, because on one side, there's the version of me that built everything, the one who knows exactly how to move, how to win, how to stay ahead. And on the other, there's this unfamiliar space where things aren't defined, where outcomes aren't guaranteed, where feelings don't follow rules. And somehow, you exist right in the middle of that. So now I'm left with a question I can't avoid anymore. Were you meant to stay? Or were you meant to change me and leave? Because those are two very different things, and I don't know which one this is. Part of me wants to figure it out, to define it, control it, put it in a place where it makes sense, but another part of me, a quieter part, feels like trying to define it might be the very thing that ruins it. That's new territory, letting something exist without forcing an outcome. I've never operated like that. And yet, here I am, not chasing, not pulling away, just aware. Aware that something shifted, aware that you're still present, even in absence. Aware that this isn't over, but also not knowing what over would even look like. And maybe that's the point. Maybe this was never about closure. Maybe some people don't come into your life to give you answers. They come to leave you with better questions. Questions that don't resolve quickly. Questions that stay with you, evolve with you, change the way you see everything that comes after. And if that's true, then what are you to me? A moment? A mirror? A turning point I didn't ask for, but can't ignore? Or something I'll only understand later, when it's already too late to go back? Because here's the truth I haven't fully accepted yet. I don't know if I'm supposed to hold on or let you go. And the more I try to decide, the more it feels like that choice might not even be mine to make. Which leaves me here, in this space between clarity and confusion, wondering something I haven't said out loud until now. What if the real reason this feels unfinished is because it is?